Good afternoon, it's already. Thank you for coming to the session. We all will be talking the next 35 or 40 minutes about creating dummy content with Migrate. As you have heard from my accent, I'm from the Netherlands, I'm from Utrecht. My name is Boris Doesborg, nobody can pronounce that name in Germany. Which is cool. I'm a Drupal developer at a company called Finalist, and we are specialized in building Drupal websites for the health and education sector. And we're also a supporter of the Drupal community by sponsoring events, mainly the Drupal Jam event in the Netherlands, which is the biggest Drupal event in the Netherlands. But we also sponsor Contrib and Core maintenance. You can find me on Drupal.org under my nickname batigolix. So that's about me. Now about the next half an hour. First I will be looking at what dummy content is, how I would define it, and why you should use it, or why we should use it. Then I have a very quick demo, and then I will go into depth in how exactly it's being done. And I'll show, then I'll do a sort of a slower demo, and I'll show all the code that's involved. And if there's some time left, we'll look at some advantages and disadvantages of using this method, and to see if there's any alternatives also available, because there's many. But then first I have a couple of questions for you, for good participation of the audience. But also so I know what you know about this topic and not. But who in this audience is not familiar with Migrate? So that's great, because everybody is familiar with Migrate. That's good. Who uses it on a regular basis, like a couple of times a year? Also nobody. Okay. So there's some discrepancy between the people that know it and the people that use it. So let's assume you all know exactly what I'm talking about, so I don't need to explain so much. Okay, so you know about Migrate. Who's using dummy, demo, or default content, whatever you call it? Who's using it? On also, it's like half the people here. And does anybody use Migrate to do this? Okay, so that's great, because then most of this information will be new. Although, yeah. I'll be focusing a lot on Migrate itself, so you may also hear a lot of things that you already know. This slide I can skip, because you all know what Migrate is about, so we'll move on quickly and we'll see, we'll have a look at what dummy content is. So for me, dummy, demo, or default content, or whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. It's just all the stuff that you would like to have as soon as you start a new website. Let's say you're installing the site on a test environment, and you want to provide it with some stuff in there. So you can showcase the things that you built, you can showcase the functionality. So think of nodes, any bundle, so articles, pages, users, very important always. Also taxonomy terms, but there's more. There's like menu items, there's paragraphs, files, media items. That's all that stuff that you need to populate in a new website. You could also say that it's all the stuff that isn't configuration in your Drupal website. So why would you use it? I would say the most important reason to use it is for testing. So if you want to do any testing, be it manual or automatic, you need some reliable, predictable data. And in the testing world, this is providing this data is called seeding. There's several ways to do this. You could, for example, during the test, you can create the content yourself, just by clicking around and saving it. You could provide a database, which always has the same data in there, and there's more ways. I think, from my experience with testing, I think providing dummy data is the most is the best way. It's the most practical way. It's also predictable, etc. We'll see this later. If you do visual regression testing with tools like Backstop.js, then there will be comparisons of screenshots of your website, and you need data for that. If you do end-to-end testing with tools like Cypress or Playwright, at least you need some users with roles, so you can log in and test stuff. If you want to do end-to-end testing of your search page, you do need content. You do need taxonomy terms to test if the facets work and those kind of things. So for testing, it's quite important. Also for manual testing, if you give it to a tester, he also would like to have some users already available. And it's also good that this is very predictable then. Another way to use an area where dummy content can be very useful is in theming, because if you can deliver your functionality already with some content in there, then for themers it's much easier to do their design work and to also to have a good idea of what kind of content they can expect. And if the new people that just arrive, if you want to attend the BOF, do you? Yes. Yeah, it's downstairs. Oh, you'll get some explanation over there. So we have to cut this out of the video, or not. So for theming, it's also very useful. Then, of course, for demos and distributions, it's great to have dummy content in there because it showcases the stuff that you built. And you should also think of having a kind of starting content. So sometimes when you build a new website, it's the configuration alone is not enough. Sometimes you also need content in there. So you could think, for example, of taxonomy terms, vocabulary like topics. Your client might expect that there's already a whole set of taxonomy terms available in the website even before starting filling it out. Okay? Did I make a good case for the use of the demo content? Thank you very much. Okay, let's have a look at a quick demo. Okay, what I like to show here, yeah, it's running. So what I'm showing here is I'm installing a website from scratch. This website already has some config in there because I enabled a couple of modules. I enabled some media bundles. So as you can see, there is already configuration available. So I do a clean install, but with this config in there. So installation is running, then we can have a look at the website. It should, everything goes well. There's nothing in there. There's just a famous welcome page from Drupal. Also on the node listing page, there's nothing there. Okay. So go back to the terminal. I'm going to have a look at my dummy content. So I do a quick status check, and I can see that there's none of the items have been imported yet. You can see, for example, there's I defined 3 users, but 0 users have been imported at the moment. So, and now I'm going to import everything. This should go pretty quickly. If the video doesn't hang, that's not hanging. Should take that away. Okay, I check again the status, and now I see that my dummy content has been imported. So 3 of the 3 users now exist in the website. Also, the rest has been imported. So we can have a look at the website again, reload it, and now we should have 5 articles here on the home page. They're all there. So the nodes have been imported. Also the taxonomy terms, they are there. And as you can see, the menu is also available already. Okay, now let's log in so we can see the admin side of this. We can see the content overview. You can see the nodes that have been installed. I have to find a password. I type very slow, so let's go. Okay, let's have a look at the content overview. All the nodes have been created. You can see that the users have been imported. Also check that they have different roles. Taxonomy terms exist. I'm using a very simple, basic Drupal website, so imagine that you have a very complex website, of course. Media items are there, and also the files that are part of the media items are also included. Let's also have a quick look at the menu. We see that the main menu has a couple of menu items already imported. See, okay, this gives you a quick start of the website. It also gives more or less an idea of what I'm talking about here. So hopefully it gives you a good idea of what the dummy content is and can do. So how is it done? Well, all the dummy content, it lives as migration definition files inside a custom module. Everything's stored in the migration folder, which has as a advantage that Drupal will treat it as a plugin. And that's good because every time when you make a change to your script or to your data, it's immediately recognized by Drupal. In contrast, if you could also have migrations as config, but that means that every time when you change something, you need to do a config import, which is a couple of extra steps, and it makes the whole process much slower. These definition files, they are written in YAML, so they're quite easy to read. And every entity bundle has its own migration file. So they're all separated from each other. The dummy data itself, it's included inside that definition file. And for that, I have to use the Migrate Plus contract module because it provides the embedded data source plugin. And that I will show in a minute. But it's necessary to do this for this approach. It's necessary to use this contract module. I use also a second contract module, which is called Migrate Tools, and it provides all the commands that are necessary for executing the migrations. So here we can see the migrations folder. It's inside a custom module called dummy content. So files are all in there. You can also recognize that there's a file for each bundle. Then we'd like to have a look at the structure of one of these migration definition files. They are, as you all are very familiar with Migrate, you know this, so I try to go quickly through this, but we have a source, a process, destination, and a migration section. That's where all the good work happens. And first have a look at the source. So as I already mentioned, I'm using an embedded data plugin, which means that the data itself is inside the migration file. As in Migrate, you can use lots of different sources. Most common is that you migrate from a SQL database, but you could also migrate from a CSV file or JSON file. So in this case, the migration takes its source data from the file itself. So it's great for this kind of demonstration and dummy content files. So we see an example here of the media image migration. This plugin, it has a data rows property, and inside there are all the items that can be that make up the source. So in this case, each item has a file and a title property. And interesting to see is that the file name is used as the ID of this item. So the migration, as you all know, it keeps track of all the migrated items, and it uses IDs for that. And in this case, I'm just using file names as IDs. For me, this has the advantage that it's much easier to remember, like strings, like file names, or user or email addresses, or node titles. It's much easier to remember than a random integer, like an ID or a UUID. That's for like manual work. That's not workable. So that's what the source looks like. For the process part, in the process part, there's the mapping takes place between the Drupal field and the property which is inside the source data. Are you familiar with the migration lookup plugin? Who is? Okay, so I can spend like a minute on that. Okay, so here on in the second field, you can see that there's a mapping taking place between the Drupal field, media image field, and the source and the file that I define in the source. So that's this. Okay? Now the field media image file, it expects an ID, the file ID of Drupal. So the file ID that is in the file managed table, I think it's called. So I'm using a plugin, process plugin, which is called Migration Lookup, and I can give to this plugin, I can give the name of the file, and it will look up the ID. So it returns the ID, and that's stored in the site. And then I have a working image field. Interesting to see is that for the user ID here, I'm using the same plugin, the Migration Lookup plugin. In this case, I'm looking up the user ID of this user, this email address. So that's what takes place in the process part of the migration files. Then we have a destination section. This is where you define how to save your data in Drupal. I would say in 99% of the cases, you're saving this as an entity. In this case, it's a media entity, and it has a specific bundle, which is the image bundle. Finally, there's also a dependency section, and there you can define how in which order the migration should be run. So for this specific migration, I first need to do the files, and then the users, and then I can do the media images. Okay? Does it make any sense, this? Okay, it makes sense. And I was able to explain it to you well, so okay, thanks. I also mentioned the Migrate Tools module, so it provides a couple of these commands that make it possible to execute the migrations from using Drush. So I use Migrate import rollback to get rid of everything, and the status command. You already saw that. It gives me the overview of what has been imported and what not. Well, then we get to the slower demo. So for this, I would just like to show you a little bit more of the code, so you can see this in real life. I think I'll just show you what the node article dummy content migration looks like. So we already saw this, and this was readable, right? This text. In the back also. Most are sleeping already there, it's okay. That's okay, it's okay. So I mentioned source section. Here you can see the embedded data plugin. I have my data rows, and then each node has only 5 properties: title, body, image, and tags. And this is all I use to generate the node. So we have a couple of more nodes here. There you go. I'm also using a couple of constants, like the variables that don't change. Then we can have a look at the process part. So here I map the title of my source item with the title in Drupal. And let's have a look. The migration lookup for the user ID, we've already seen that. We've already seen how the field image gets his file ID. For the body field, I use the value, which in my source is also called body. For the tags, field tags in the article content type, I populate this with the tags from the source, of course. And again, there's the migration lookup, which will try to find the term ID in Drupal to store it. Creation date. Here I'm using a different plugin. It formats the date that I gave it. Like this is like a more human readable date. It formats it into a Drupal timestamp. So the creation date is being filled with the data that I would like to give it. And finally, I do some, I create a path for each article. And I use a couple of plugins again to make like a nice looking URL alias. So you can see here is a string replace plugin being used where I replace the spaces with dashes, that kind of stuff. So that's what the Node article dummy migration looks like. I guess it's the more complex one. The rest is even simpler. So let's see, some taxonomy terms. They only have a name. That's it, name. Because I use the name as the ID as well, so there's nothing else to it. Just creates 5 taxonomy terms. Is there any other migration from here that you would be interested in that I can show you? No? It's okay like this? So we have some here. Maybe have a quick look at the users. For the users, I have an email address, a role, a file that will go into the user picture. That's all there is to it. Okay? Are we okay with the migration definitions files? Good. Okay, I can do this again. I'm doing a site install. It will delete everything. Okay, there's nothing to see here, doesn't work. Yeah, access denied, great. Site is empty. Do migrate status, shows me again what is the content that has already been imported. Let's import all of this. You see, in a case like this, with few data, this is done in a second. If you have a more extensive set, it probably takes a couple of more seconds, but it's still a very fast process. Yes. Let's have a look. We're going to do a login, an admin, password. So this is it. Okay, again, we see all the content that has been imported. Now you recognize all these fields that I just mentioned. We see here the title and the alt text and the body, the picture. And all the stuff is already in there. The media items as well. This was all generated within like 1 second, something like that. Okay. Is there in this website anything that you would like to see more in detail or that I could show to you? Okay, just continue. Okay, that's for the slow demo. Okay, let's spend a minute on seeing why what's good about this approach. So it's very reliable. It's robust. It's based on the Migrate API, which is very well developed and gets very few surprises. So especially for testing, you can depend on this kind of dummy content to be the same, exactly the same every time when you execute the migration every time when you import the data. You get the same result, so you have a very good predictable starting point for all your testing. You can repeat it as fast as you like. That's very quick. If you don't want the data in there, you can easily roll it back and then it's gone. You can make it as realistic as you like. You can change it for every client, for every project. It's really up to you to make it look as realistic as possible. Given that it's all in YAML files, this is quite readable. Maybe not for all audiences, but let's say at least for all the developers, it's very easy to understand what's going on inside these migration definition files. It's also revisionable in the sense that you can make really clean. You can put it in Git, and your diffs will look quite clean and easy to understand. So it's also easy for people to review it. Given that you can use any kind of field as ID, you can use something simple, something that you can remember. Like I showed, for example, I use email addresses as IDs, so it's easy to make like references between all these different migrations. Migrate has a ton of extension possibilities. Even if you do not want to follow exactly this approach, you could also like import from CSV or from a database. And Migrate has all the documentation that you would like all over the internet, so you can always find your solutions if you get stuck. Unfortunately, there's also a couple of drawbacks for this work, because it's you have to do it all by hand. There's nothing that will do it for you, so you have to do it all yourself. You may maybe be able to use ChatGPT to do stuff for you, or IDE plugins, but still it's a lot of manual labor. So it's also slow, especially when you start with this. As soon as you have like a good set, a nice library, then it's much easier to copy-paste stuff, and then you may be able to set it up in a couple of hours for one project, but when you start with this, it takes much more time. And then what's a problem in when using Migrate is that you're not actually creating content in the UI, but you make a script that creates it for you, so you have kind of these abstractions, so you don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. And then you can run into all kind of errors that are, that can, well, let's say at least say they can be confusing, or like or silent errors. Something is missing, something goes wrong, but there's no information at all what's going on. So that's something you have to be prepared for, but it's also like the experience that you can use for any other migration project. So I mentioned before, there's no UI to execute this. There's the migration UI, but if you use the migrations as plugins, then the UI is not available. Also, it's a bit cumbersome that you have to do all these migrations separately. So I imagine that you're creating a node that has an image paragraph, then the image paragraph needs a media image item, and the media image needs a file, so you have to write 4 migrations for all of these and run them in the right order. So that can be a bit of a hassle. So if you think this is all too much work or too slow, then there's also some alternatives. Our most favorite one, I think we all know it and we all use it, is the Devel Generate. So it creates all these entities for you super fast and in a convenient way. You can do it in the UI, you can do it using Drush, and it's great for random content. But yeah, it may be too random for you, and then you can rely on the control module realistic dummy content that allows you to define some images, like more realistic images, and some strings that can be used in the fields. Okay, you have to set this all up in a specific structure, and when you run Devel Generate, and it will take the data from from the files that you have defined, and you get a more realistic result. Then, another good contender for dummy content is the default content module. It's been around for a while. It is able to create all these entities when you do an installation of the module. Nowadays, you can also use it when you apply a recipe. So it will then create content for you. It does have an export function. So in this case, you can go into Drupal, create your content there, use the export, and then it provides you with some JSON or YAML files. You can save these, so you don't need to do it all by hand. You can use Drupal. You can also let other people do it for you. What's a bit of a drawback, you cannot repeat this process as often as you would do with Migrate. There's no update option, so you can only do it once. So if you want to do it again, you have to uninstall the module, delete the data, and then re-enable the module again. So that's much slower, but in some cases this may be more useful. I think, if you want to provide dummy data with a distribution or a content module, then this may be the better approach. It's also another plus point that this is partly already in core. It's going to be used in Drupal CMS/Starshop, and it's already being used in a recipe. So if you're looking for something that will be around in Drupal core for the next 15 years or whatever, then default content is something to look at. Also, want a quick mention for the Migrate default content contrib module that also exists, which does a little bit of what default content does, but it uses Migrate, so you can do like a sort of a mix. It looks like it's kind of there's a simplification layer on top of the Migrate definition files. That makes it a bit rigid, not so flexible. And I tried it again this week, and I definitely couldn't find any good documentation steps, so that might be a negative point. But if you're looking for something which looks a bit like default content, but it still uses some Migrate, and try this one as well. And then a shout out to this is the last one. The Entity Migrate Export module, contrib module as well, does a really nice job because it allows you to, you just create your stuff in Drupal itself, just like you would normally do, or you let the editor do this. And then this module gives you a couple of drush commands to export all this content. And it gives you also the commands to import it later on in, for example, a different environment. So you could move this from your local environment and then push everything to test, and then do an import command over there. This also uses Migrate, but it has its own extra drush commands to execute this. All the stuff that's being exported is in JSON, maybe also in YAML. I don't know. It creates the whole directory structure for you. You can also keep updating everything as often as you like, and it's also quite fast and good. There's a drawback, of course, to this. It will generate all the files with lots of IDs inside, UUIDs, which makes it less readable. So you cannot really make changes by hand. And also the IDs can get mixed up if you have like 5 different developers creating content and pushing it all together in these JSON files. That will probably not work and break. Those were the alternatives. In my slides, I added the list of the links where I found all this information. I hope I can share these with you. You can also take a picture. That's also kind of sharing. And that's it for me. I talked like 35 minutes. I'm just dead, so maybe you want to say something, like maybe you have a question. or you want to give your own opinion on this? Or we... Yes?
Have you ever tried the feeds module as an
Feeds?
Yeah.
I never tried it again in like modern Drupal since Drupal 8, 9, or 10.
It's working fine, and I
Yeah.
think it's a nice way to generate dummy content. You
Yeah.
can use Excel or something
Yeah.
to create the data.
Okay.
And
And can you like,
CSV.
yeah, is there like one, you push on the button and it imports everything?
And you can use it with Scratch too.
Yeah, okay, so you have drush, feeds, import, and then you give it an Excel.
And you give it a name. And
Yeah.
the drawbacks.
I think I should have mentioned this among the alternatives, but...
The drawbacks you said, you must also make it in the right direction.
Yeah.
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 The files and the media
Yeah.
and the paragraph and
Yeah.
the note, that's the same.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot faster to create it with
Yeah.
the UI.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can also let non-developers do this.
a lot of trial and error, and
Yeah.
you must
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, I think the Migrate, of course, also allows CSV files and everything. Yes? Yeah, yeah. And in the end, you have to be able to do this from a script, because you want to do it locally. You want to let another developer do it locally. You want to do it in the test environment. So you have to repeat this very often. So yeah, like clicking around in the UI is not really an option.
You
Yeah.
can export the configuration from your feed.
Yeah.
And you must create in the content section.
Yeah.
You can create it with some lines of code.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
Yeah. Yeah. As long as it is like executable in a quick and fast way, then it could be a good. I will include it for the next version of the presentation.
if you use a feed temper, it's important to make
Yeah.
some modifications on the data. You make it. I think it's
Yeah.
pre-process things in my
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah, I remember it from the old days. Yeah.
the data you can.
Yeah. And that's basically what the process plugins do. They do they are the new feed stamper. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Other question, remarks, complaints, comments? Okay, then let's see what do we have. Oh, yeah, I want to say thank you for attending. Yeah, if you want to find me, the company that I work for is finalist.nl, and on Drupal.org I'm batigolix. And what else do we have? I thank you for Drupal EV. So I thank you on behalf of the Drupal EV. I think that's what it is. These are the sponsors, yeah, if you know that. Thanks.